This podcast is a production of Unfiltered Studios. If you would like to know more about joining Unfiltered Studios, please visit our website at unfpod.com for more information.
So we have the Awakened yoga trainer himself, Michael Baez, here to discuss the top 120 martial artist stars. But we'll also talk about his film projects he's been working on from one filmmaker to another. And
Yes.
see how indie action film and martial arts dramas are doing.
Yes. What's interesting because you found me on my Awakened Warrior page.
Yes.
Which I teach yoga also.
There were a bunch of shout outs and
it was great. Yeah.
kudos to whoever did your Instagram because like they were promoting the action shorts.
Good.
And your film was one of them, and it's the first in a franchise.
Oh, nice. Yeah. It is actually. This is part one of a trilogy. I shot this movie in December of 2023 in Mexico City, and it was just it's been a wonderful experience. Yeah,
Lovely.
yeah. I'm born and raised in New York, though. Born and raised in New York, living in California, and during COVID also was just going crazy at home. Trying to figure out what the heck to do with life.
It's interesting. I was seeing a lot of other colleagues who wanted to do a movie, then they were like, screw it, we'll just do training from home for various people.
Yeah.
But now I think everyone's that they're itching. There's like, I got to get back into doing these projects.
That's where I was. Yeah, I agree. That's where I was too. I was, I born and raised in New York, as I said, and before yoga, before film, I studied martial arts. I started, I think, when I was about 13 years old. And my dad did it. My mom, my whole family studied to some degree, just had a knowledge of it. Growing up in New York, and
it was all pretty much passed down, I guess.
Yeah, it was just passed down. I think pictures of me, like my dad, lifting up my leg, doing kicks, and just starting me at very, very young age. I think like 3 years old, 4 years old. He was just teaching me the basics. He was studying Taekwondo at the time in New York City, in the 70s. And that was the time of, remember, it's the time of Bruce Lee, so it was like,
yes,
martial arts was huge. And, everybody was wanting to do karate and kung fu, so it was a very, very exciting time in New York.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Did you ever have to it's not uncommon, but did you ever have to correct anyone growing up where you're like, hey, that's not a kind of defending or defense mechanism. It's not like the movies. Here, let me show you this technique.
In the movies, the movies are the movies, and even now when you see movie arts in it, it really goes over the top with it and stuff like that. So, having grown up watching kung fu movies on TV, watching Bruce Lee movies with my dad, and then actually getting into it and studying it, myself, it was definitely different experience of what you see in the movies. The movies hype it up and just are really over the top, and especially in the early 70s and 80s, the movies were just nuts.
It's like you can use your body as a weapon, but you would see so many as like they're throwing people, 5 times as big. I'm like, where is that upper body strength coming from? And
exactly. And then the introduction of wire work, like just having people flying across, and, which is crazy. It's just, it was fun. It was a fun era of movie, to be a studying cinema. But then like the reality of it, like going to a martial arts school and, showing up for class on a consistent basis and getting tested for belts, then it really put it into perspective for me of like, it's a commitment. It's a very disciplined, steady commitment, with with a beautiful growth and journey. So yeah, I loved it. I loved it. It was one of the best times of my life. And I started when I was 13 years old. So, at that age, a lot of my friends, in middle school, going into high school and then eventually college, they were getting into trouble,
Mm.
experimenting, drugs, alcohol, these things. And
Jeez.
thank God, the best thing my parents did was introduce me to this. My dad showed me the basics and really laid down my foundation. And then my mom enrolled me into a local boys and girls club in Queens, where I grew up in New York City. And it was just, that was a life-changing experience. It really put me on the path, and it kept me off the streets, kept me away from all the temptations that a lot of my friends were getting caught up in. And it gave me something to really look forward to.
That's lovely. I mean, because that's the other thing too. Like when you see people wanting to instill discipline, it seems like people like to take extra drastic measures. Like, oh, you got to go up. Nothing against this, but like, oh, you should become a minister. Oh, you should go off and join the army. It's like, well,
Yeah, yeah,
when
yeah.
it's
That's
something else I can still do at home, but
yeah,
reinforces my values, my ethics,
yeah,
my composition as a person, for lack of a
yeah.
better terminology.
No, for sure, for sure. I agree with that. I agree with that. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, people, really go towards church and religion, which I grew up in too. I grew up in a Catholic household, and I was aware of the saints, and went to church, for Christmas and Easter, the big holidays, and occasionally on Sundays with my mom, or I would go on my own eventually as I got older. But it was, she grew up in a Catholic environment. She went to Catholic school,
Mm.
so I think her experience in that, she was like, no, no, I'm gonna do a little bit differently, This isn't a time where the nuns, when she went to Catholics, they were allowed to hit you. It was very typical they would hit you with
Very
rulers.
cliche,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, that was real. That stuff that we hear about, that was true. So she
Wow.
completely did not expose us to that side of it, and just had us go, when we wanted to, and more for the holidays. But I would definitely say we grew up in a very, religious, believing of the higher power household. And that was a good foundation of my spirituality. And then the
Nice.
martial arts was my foundation with regards to like physical, because I was a very shy kid, didn't play sports, was always
I'm the
shy.
same deal.
Oh, yeah, you do?
It's amazing when you get that like stink eye. I'm like, well, I don't. I'm happy for you. I am impressed by you as an athlete. It just I'd rather
Yeah,
be playing this with you, but since I don't play it, I don't
yeah,
find it interesting to watch. So I did have to have a coming to Jesus kind of moment with my brother saying, "Hey, I
yeah,
support you in your career, but
yeah,
I don't like going to these games. So
yeah.
let's participate in some other like thing. So let's play golf or bowling together, but let's
Yeah,
like
cool, that's cool.
it,
Yeah,
I went before I even did therapy and got learned about assertive communication. I was already trying to kind of find a bit of the in between point, but not doing it nearly as well.
yeah, yeah,
But yeah, it is. Uh, I've always kind of encountered some form of this. My sister did some yoga in college
oh, nice,
to
nice.
distress herself. I have an aunt who does Tai Chi, and
Oh,
you know,
wonderful.
uh, I was a terrible martial arts student
How
just
are you?
because I was in a bad place. I just wasn't mentally not. I,
Important.
I
That's
had the
important.
great support and everything. I just wasn't serious about anything. And then it took a while. I was so busy just staying out of trouble. I didn't have enough. I didn't make time
Yeah.
to find a fun recreation when I was in between doing homework and
Yes.
watching
Yes.
movies. But
Yes.
I'm right where I need to be right now, though. That is for sure.
That's it. That's a big yoga. Yoga would say everything is perfectly unfolding the way it's supposed to be, and we're here where we're supposed to be, and we have to
we
accept that.
it's if anything, you just want to strip away some of the lesser parts of your life where it's like, okay,
Yeah.
wouldn't do that again, but I learned from this versus I got to figure out why that
Yeah.
happened here.
Yeah. Yes, for sure. For sure. For
uh,
sure. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's cool, man. That's great. Yeah, so
yeah.
you do martial arts and you do film too. I love it. We have a lot in common.
Well, and there's nothing worse when I'm sure you've had to encounter actors who want to fake this. It's like, well,
Oh,
don't
yes.
do this move. That's the Captain Kirk move. That's not an actual.
Yeah.
That's a John Wayne punch. That's not an actual
Yeah. Yes.
part of the
Yes.
art punch.
Yes.
And
Yeah. No, exactly. That's a good point that you bring up. Being a martial artist, I achieved the second degree black belt level with the school that I studied with, and I was an instructor. So I had an eye for authentic technique. And even when I watch films and I see, when they have like, the actor, and all of a sudden you could tell the stunt double, you could see,
Hmm.
but you're like, oh, that's not the same actor, that always caught my eye and it just threw me off. So I really like when the actors go through the training, they go through the experience,
Absolutely.
get trained properly. And that's what we did with my film. My leading actress was in training for three
You did
years.
it. There was no break hard pass where Charles Bronson
Yeah,
and his
yeah,
stunt double, who looks nothing like him, but with the fake
yeah.
mustache, is fighting
Right.
on the train in full camera view. And it
Yes.
is interesting too how, we can now save ourselves all this trouble. We don't have to only look for the viewfinder to see
Yeah. Yeah.
something
For
that doesn't
sure.
stick out.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah. It really stands out like a sore thumb. Yeah.
and your yoga master was Sir Dharma Mitra.
Dharma Mitra. Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. He's still, still doing it. 85
Still
years
doing
old.
it.
Still
Okay,
doing it. 85
wow.
years old. Teaches in New
That's
York
awesome.
City. So whenever I go visit New York, I try to get in a class with him. He's a huge inspiration for me, a huge role model. He's just been, he's the proof that at his age you can do it. If you follow the yoga path and you do it on a consistent basis, whether it be daily. Daily would be ideal, but not everyone can do it daily. The fortunate thing about me is because I teach, it puts me on my mat almost on a daily basis. I teach him
Mm.
multiple days sometimes. Sometimes I won't teach one day, but I'll teach 2 or 3 classes. Tomorrow I'm teaching 3 classes.
You
Today I
give your
taught.
body the right amount of break instead of
Exactly. Yeah, but it's the
only this day,
consistency.
only that day.
Yeah, but it's the consistency, just like with the martial arts. It's just when you do it on a daily discipline basis, then you see the improvements and it becomes part of your life. But Dharma
Mm.
is proof that, he walks his talk, 85 years old, he's still doing it and he's still teaching, he's still inspiring other people, myself included. He's training other people to be teachers, which is now what I do. So yeah, it's been a really amazing journey with yoga. Yoga is definitely what happened was that when I moved from New York to get closer to the film industry and I came to California, I needed something. I wanted something to do physically because I had did martial arts for 10 years, was a second degree black belt instructor. And it's like, okay, now what do I do? And I didn't want to go back into art world over again,
Don't
start over
repeat.
as a white belt. Yeah, I was like I did that. I competed in tournaments and it's just I know what it took in terms of the way I approached it. It took like all or nothing, and I was all in for 10 years. But I did want the physical, what it offered physically, not the competition side of it. And then yoga was that. Yoga, I went to my first yoga class with a friend of mine. She took me to what I call living room yoga. As a friend of hers was teaching a class in her living room and it was packed. And we got
Uh,
there late.
I'm
So I was
glad they had a house that was that big,
yeah, yeah, it was there in a big
Didn't have
living
to rent
room.
out a gym.
Yeah, yeah. People were spilling off from the living room into the other rooms, and I was by the door, the entryway of the door, because we got there late. But within 10 minutes, I was like, I love this. This is incredible. And it really felt like martial arts to me. It was a perfect substitute because it had everything of the flexibility, the balance, the coordination, the discipline, the breathing, the concentration. It had everything of the martial arts, but without the competitive side and the combative side because we did it in tournaments. We competed in tournaments, which I love. I don't regret it at all. But I was at a different transitional stage where I was like, okay, I want the physical, part of it without the tournament competition. And yoga
Mhm.
was it. Yoga was it for me. I just
I
fell
like
in.
that. See,
Yeah.
that's why kind of why I went after bowling. Just like take away the competition and just get good
Uh,
at doing the actual thing.
craft. Yeah.
Or you
Yeah.
can approach it like pool table where you may not be great at it, but it's a very fun
Yes.
and there's still a way to do about it and there's
Yeah.
still something you can learn instead of
Yeah. Definitely, definitely, and that was it. And then my yoga journey began, and I was taking classes on and off here and there sporadically, and then finally I actually moved back to New York for a short period of time, found the yoga school in Queens, and then started taking classes there.
oh
And then
boy.
his name is Andrew. My first, I would say my first teacher that I actually studied with, his name was Andrew Tanner, at a school called
Andrew
Bamboo
Tanner.
Hoops. Yeah, Andrew Tanner. Yeah, and he taught at the school. It was one school at the time. It's called Bamboo Moves, and it was in Queens. It's not there anymore, unfortunately. And then when I went to his school and started studying with him and his partner at the time. Her
Pops
name
up
was
in Google as the
yeah, yeah. And
Berkshire Yoga Festival.
oh yeah, is he there? Ah,
Yep.
cool. Yeah, I think he lives. If I'm not mistaken, he lives somewhere over there on the East Coast, still, like in the Boston area or something. I'm not sure. But Andrew Tanner, yeah, he's a wonderful yoga teacher, and he was my introduction to Dharma Mitra because he studied with Dharma, and then like his
Mm.
style teaching and his philosophy was through Dharma yoga. And I just fell in love with it. And then I was on a retreat with Andrew, and he casually just said, "Hey, you know, you should think about being a yoga teacher." And I was like, you know, and I had taught martial arts, and I at that point I had a good knowledge of teaching. After teaching for 10 years, I understood. I was like, oh, teaching yoga is gonna be way easier than teaching martial arts.
Yeah.
So I did a yoga training, and I decided, hey, you know what? I want to open up a yoga school. And I licensed the name Bamboo Moves because that was the name of the school that Andrew owned, and I loved the philosophy behind it. So I opened up my own Bamboo Moves in the Bronx. So we were the Bamboo Moves Bronx location, and there was one in New
Hmm.
Jersey, and then Andrew had the one in Queens. So there were three Bamboo Moves schools. What I loved about the schools is that it wasn't just yoga. They offered a lot of other things like, dance classes, and they also for kickboxing and Zumba, which is huge,
Zumba is still, yeah. I
yeah,
mean, I
huge.
applaud that they've now made like easier cushions.
Yeah,
Like just about every gym has them instead of sorry
yeah,
we don't carry those or we carry these
yeah,
kind of mats that are for this kind
yeah,
of stretching.
for sure. No, definitely, it's really grown, and that was it. So then I just fell in love with yoga and started teaching and opened the school, and then became a trainer. So then I started certifying people myself to become teachers, and but all that from the teaching knowledge came from my 10 years of martial arts. So it was a very easy transition to go from teaching martial arts to teaching yoga in terms of understanding communication, understanding how to basically look at your students and give them those verbal and physical adjustments to help them into proper alignment. All that came from martial arts.
That's lovely.
Yeah, yeah.
And then was it I'm sure it was a challenge, but like how did you interpret how you were going to balance it out, with schedules, the business side, and then
Yeah, that
the
was
rental?
that's always a juggle, it's always a juggle trying to because I went all in with yoga. As I said, I'm all in or nothing guy. I went all in with yoga. I fell in love with it. Opened the school. Was 100% focused on that. The
Pass
school was
out cards
open.
at meets.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Open the school. It was open 7 days a week, from morning to night, had a full staff, two different managers running the front desk. Like it was a full operation. It was a small little studio. We only had one studio. It wasn't like a multi-studio facility. But we were full speed ahead. So I ran that for 4 years. And then I had put my film passion and love aside, I would still watch movies and things like that and still would appreciate
Sweet.
it. But I wasn't making anything. I wasn't making any movies. Luckily, in New York, I was also part of a cable broadcaster called Cablevision. I was a freelancer with them.
Cablevision.
Yeah,
Wow.
Cablevision. Yeah, unfortunately they got bought out in New York. I don't know if they're around anywhere else, but they got bought out in New York by this other company. But I would do TV commercials for Cablevision for small businesses. So I
Mm.
shot tons and tons of commercials. So that kept me like behind the camera. That kept me in the mindset of editing and hiring actors and getting equipment. So it kept me active where I was still getting that need met in terms of being creative and filmmaking,
Mm.
but I was mostly focused on the yoga school, and that was it. So that was pretty much what I was juggling. But it was a challenge, During the downtime, I would, you know, do my editing, or sometimes, at night or early in the morning, just trying to figure out. And that was the thing. Shooting was I could say easy. It's easier, but editing was where a lot of time was invested. So I had to be really strategic with my time in editing. But yeah, but that kept me sharp. I really credit those commercials as low budget as they were, and they were for like the local restaurant, a doctor, a dentist, a lawyer, a gym. It really kept me sharp. Because I would meet a client, you know, interview them, see what they want to market, what their business is, set a day to shoot it within 4 hours, go back home, sometimes the same night, edit it within 8 hours, and then the next day turn it into them. And they were blown away, like, oh my God, you did it so fast. But that I had the system down so smooth that I can turn in a commercial within 24 to 48 hours. Yeah, it was cool.
Lovely. I
Good time.
see, and that's kind of the key with like anything. Just give yourself enough time. Like
Yes,
there's
yes, yes.
nothing worse than, hey, I want to crash or hey, I want to do something other than,
Yeah,
study.
yeah. No, you got to do the work. Got to give yourself the time. Got to put in the hours. I'm sure you heard that the philosophy is, 10,000 hours is what it takes to
1,000
truly
hours.
master something, and I believe that, I believe that, having invested so much time into martial arts and now with yoga, like it's just the daily disciplines, the simple little things over and over. And that's what we talk about, in martial arts. We would have to master, I can't tell you how many times we threw front punches and did blocks, thousands of times.
uh,
Yeah.
um, when do you think, so you were good at outlining
Yeah.
and getting comfortable with what you were good with, and then balancing
Yeah.
that out with
Yes.
other stuff on your slate. When did you find that, hey, I'm not only in this to win this, but I also value myself and my time? When did that
Yeah.
become a reality?
Yes, that's a good question. I think that started to happen specifically when I would meet with clients with regards to like value in terms of like my time serving and providing a service.
Mm.
When I noticed that like, the way I was introduced into that world of competitive, commercial world was to be the cheaper guy, to cost to try, to charge less. And because I charged less, I would get the deal because people were penny pinching, and these were small businesses. So of course, if they could save $500, if they could save $300, they were going to go with me as long as the quality was the same, and I was being introduced by the executives at Cablevision, and they trusted my work. They would go with the cheaper guy, let's say. But that wasn't always the best, because then it kind of limited me and my creativity and like my
Mhm.
my tools and my resources of like hiring actors, or like eventually I said, you know what, I want to charge a little bit more if I offer these services. So we started to offer like animation. We started to offer green screen. We started to offer like, different types of visual effects, or we would do voiceovers in two different languages. So for the most part, I would say probably 80% of the commercials
Nice.
were English. But then because I was bilingual and I had a whole resource of actors who were bilingual, I would offer commercials in Spanish. And then that really opened up the market. And all of a sudden now the
Mm.
client was now able to market the same commercial with a different voiceover. That was the only difference, was the voiceover was different. And then some of the wording on the screen was different. And next thing you know, I was able to capture a whole nother market and then charge more money. So that's when my light bulb went off in terms of the value of my time and like how I can provide more of a service and then earn more in terms of monetary gain. So that was a big light bulb moment for me with the commercials. But then in terms of like my time for like self-care, and just really, really, making sure I don't burn out. Because I have a tendency when I'm in New York just to go like full speed. It's just the city, the energy, the vibration, it just really sucks
Hmm.
me in. And I find myself into like burnout mode sometimes. So I have to like be mindful to take a yoga class, to give myself time to rest, to try my best to sleep in, and not like be up at the crack of dawn. It really, and even now, I try to just make sure I value rest. I Fortunately, my girlfriend, she values rest as one of her high values. So she's very, she enjoys her sleep, and it forced me to really rethink my mindset and just really take time to rest, which is important, because especially when you're doing so much yoga the way I'm doing it, you need the time off to rest, you need the time off to heal, to recuperate, things like that. So yeah, those are two my distinction. One was a financial thing through the commercials, and was the physical thing, and the rest through like you're just taking care of myself and self-care.
That is wonderful,
Yeah,
because there's nothing worse than, like, the work is
being tired.
easy, but now
Yeah,
it's not near the worth, and so after like the fifth gig, you're like, okay, now
yeah,
this has to have a bigger budget, so there's more time for this, and
yes,
more for
yes,
the rent and all that. But then
yeah,
at the same time, there's not. I like how you brought it around to,
yeah,
now I'm getting this personal reward, and it's not interfering with personal life and time off. And
yes, no,
but at the same time, yeah, that the international markets are always interesting, and
yeah,
it, it's always funny how some markets are like, or even firms are using the same kind of advertising, but they're doing it a slightly different way, hence their
right,
style.
right,
And it's like, I don't know if inside person's the same thing, but you're just having to say, okay, so here's how you would do it. We're talking
hmm,
the same way. Let me rebrand
yeah,
this to where, this is how you want it. This is how I'm doing it. We're
yes,
going to get exactly what each other wants without any kind of misunderstanding.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. We would say we would call it a needs analysis and just interview our clients and just kind of see like what do they need, what do they want, and then figure out the best way to serve them. And I still do that to this day, even with my yoga business. I'm always listening to what my students want. Today in class, one of my students requested that we did a different class as opposed to this one.
Mm.
So we did that class was more of a fluid, intense flow class. Whereas more of a vinyasa style approach in terms of the yoga techniques. So we did that class. And so I always listen to what the students want and what they need, especially in my yoga trainings. In the yoga trainings, I try to customize the training to serve them the best since it's very intimate and small training. So it's cool. It's a lot of fun. Yeah.
That's lovely. And uh, uh, when you see a new student come into the fold,
Yeah.
and they're either shy or just not saying what's on their mind, what do you think is a good way to kind of clear the room and just be like, okay,
I think that, a lot of times we tell people, because people, especially if they're new to yoga, they get nervous. It could be very intimidating because I think yoga has this stigma and this perception that you have to be flexible, that only flexible people do yoga. And I always say something that one of my friends who's a yoga teacher shared with me, like, no, you don't go to yoga because you are flexible. You go to yoga to become flexible. So flex yoga is actually for people who are tight and who need more
yes,
flexibility. So, I taught a lot in the gym world and at Crunch Fitness, and a lot of people were like, gym people, and they were coming to yoga and they were tried and they weren't used to it. They would be super tight, but it was actually good for them to really loosen their body to stretch. So I always encourage people, if you're tight, you should go to yoga. Don't think it's just for people who are uber flexible, could put their foot behind their head. Like that's not what yoga is. And yoga, that's only the physical aspect of it. Then it has the philosophy and the meditation, the spirituality. There's so much more to yoga than what the average person thinks, because right away they think
hmm
doing headstands or doing, warrior two, or, those poses. But it's not just that. There's more to it than just the physical poses. So yeah, I always just look at the students and I let them know, hey, you know, go at your own pace, listen to your own body, really, really be respectful and intuitive to what your body needs. Don't worry
yes,
about what I'm saying. Like I tell them flat out, don't do what I'm saying. Like, listen to your body. If your body says you can't do this pose, then skip it. But I also offer modification. So I tell people, okay, here's the more challenging version of the pose, and then here's the more basic intermediate version. So they can kind of see and they can pick and choose. And I think that's what makes me a good teacher, is that I give people both options. I don't just say, well, it's this way or the highway, because some teachers teach like that, and then
yes.
that's not very welcoming for new students. New students get very intimidated by that style, and then they don't come back. And I would hate to be the reason why someone quits yoga or doesn't even give it a second chance. So there's been times where I'll tell people, hey, my class may not be for you. Like at the end, please try someone else's class, because maybe you'll relate to that person. So I
I
want them
like
to
that.
know,
Yeah.
yeah, I want them to know that I'm not yoga. I'm not, don't define it as my experience as your experience, and that's it. Like try somebody else's class, because they might relate to that teacher better, for many
Kind of
reasons.
like
So
how therapists will
yeah,
give a
exactly.
disclaimer saying, hey, if you
Yeah.
don't like how I'm listening and
Yes.
giving you
Yes.
these goals, you might try someone else who challenges you this way, and
Yes. Yes.
maybe you don't want to be challenged at all. So you got to come back when you're
Yes.
mature and actually do want to be challenged.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. That's the perfect analogy. Same
It's
thing.
wild.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the
Uh,
same thing. Same thing. Because ultimately, yoga is a form, in my opinion, to me, I think it's the first form of self-help. I think it's the first form of therapy. I think it's the first form of
I
everything,
mean,
because
there's so much reward to it. There
yeah,
is,
yeah,
and it is interesting looking through all kinds of mental health and fitness arcs, and they almost always will bring up the opposition you're getting is from someone else who's insecure.
that's
That
right. That's right.
we often see it, unfortunately, in the form of like bullying or just someone
Yeah.
else who just has nothing nice to say, and it's like, well, we're not talking about them or what
Yeah.
they think. We're talking about you. What do
Yes.
you want?
Yes. Yes.
So if
Exactly.
someone makes a tasteless joke about you doing this kind of thing, well, why do you care? They're not your
Yeah.
friend, clearly, so don't
Okay.
pay them a visit.
Exactly. Yeah,
It's just,
that's such a valuable lesson, and it's a great book that we refer to in my yoga training. It's called The Four Agreements, and one of the
the
agreements is
four agreements.
The Four Agreements. Yeah, it's an amazing book. It's definitely one of the best sellers.
Don Miguel Ruiz.
Yep, Therese. Yep, exactly. It's an
I will
amazing.
read this.
simple philosophy, but one of the four agreements is don't take anything personal, which can be a challenge for most people. They take everything personal. But the four
Yes,
agreements, it's a simple book, teaches you about the four agreements, in a very simple way, easy to digest. Most people can read that book in a day. It's that
I
of a
bet.
it's a really beautiful book, but the philosophy of it is truly, truly brilliant. And it's one of the philosophies of yoga is non-attachment and not really getting emotionally swept in to the drama, the chaos, the
Yes.
fear, all the stuff that's happening in the world. It's very easy to get sucked into that, especially if you're watching the news all day long,
Hmm.
your circle of friends or,
It does get annoying going to the gym and
uh,
there's
I
not
know.
only
Why do they
distracting
do
things.
that? It's
Yeah.
so,
And people are always told that to me. I'm like, I can do music.
yeah,
That's it. Like
I know.
if I do anything else, I'm done. I'm going to be distracted. 40
Yeah.
minutes have gone by.
Great. And it's always by the treadmills. They have the screen
Hmm.
blasting the news, and it's always negative stuff. It's like, oh my God, can someone change
You
this and
feel
put
that vibe. Yeah. After a while,
feel
I'm like,
it?
no.
Yeah, you're running. You're in this tense state, right? Your body is fully, your heart's beating, you're sweating, you're breathing, and then you're being fed this imagery of like the war or this or that or that. It's just like it's not. You're completely opening your vessel, and then you're just sucking in all this negativity and chaos. And it's like, it's really bad. I don't watch the news. I'm of course I know what's happening in the world. I think thankfully with our phones and with
That's a
social,
good disclaimer, too. It's like,
yeah,
okay, yes, I know what's happening.
I
No, I
know
don't know every detail of it because
yeah, yeah,
I have to be able to get up in the morning
exactly.
instead of waking up and then bursting into tears and then
Here.
getting on.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure, for sure. I remind my mom all the time. I say, "Mom, please turn off the news." Especially now in California. This last 2 weeks, we had all these fires, and I'm getting all these calls from my family and my friends on the East Coast, particularly in New York, and they're just like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And I'm like, "I'm fine, I'm fine." I don't live anywhere near it. It's close. I can see it in the distance. I can smell
Absolutely.
the smoke in the air, but it's not near me. But when they, from their perspective in the news, it looks like all of California is up in flames, and it really starts to stress them out. Of course, my mom and my dad being the first two. So I keep encouraging them, stop watching news, stop watching news.
Well, and make sure what you're reading is not an editorial. I saw one write up, I forget where it was. I think it was Wall Street Journal or whatever, and they're like, by the way, a GoFundMe may not be going to any relief. I'm like, well, speak for
Uh,
yourself. You can't tell me every single,
yeah,
crowdfunder's a
it's,
sham.
yeah, exactly. And,
I
and
gave to
that's not,
someone I knew who
yeah,
pledged and showed all the perks. He was a
yeah.
famous voice actor.
Oh, nice,
He's
nice.
not anyone you would know, but you might have
Sure.
heard a CBS
Yeah,
Super Bowl ad with them. That's as much
yeah,
exposure.
yeah,
And I saw that, like many of these people, is like, okay, just imagine, just
yeah,
most people
yeah.
are going to go, I can never lose my phone or
Uh,
computer,
yes, yeah,
puppy. I get that. But
yep.
imagine just losing your home.
Everything, your
It
home,
may not dawn on you then, like,
yeah,
but
yeah,
there's something
yeah,
that will make you feel empty. You're just like, I
yeah,
can't. This, if
yeah.
it's something you grew up in, it's like, well,
Sure, sure. Especially something place you grew up in, not to mention all your, your memorabilia, your clothes, your sentimental things,
mhm,
little things that mean a lot, and then you don't
yes,
realize, and thankfully, we're okay. But I had two friends who had to evacuate, but luckily they didn't lose their homes. But I was in communication with them, and just experiencing what they were experiencing through them, I could feel their fear and their concern and their, it was a very stressful time, luckily they went back home and everything was fine. The houses were still there.
right?
But that uncertainty of like leaving and thinking this might be it. I may never come back and I may never have a home again.
Fortunately, Plan B didn't have to be enacted, but now this
Yeah.
is practice. It's kind of reminds one of various,
Yes.
evacuation drills they might have done at a school or something. It's like, okay, so regardless of how the management implemented it or
Yeah,
how the timing was bad, at least you now know, hey, you don't get to decide when disaster erupts.
that's right. It just happened. Yeah, be prepared. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
lost my car last year, but
Yeah. Hello.
it just got flooded,
Yeah.
on a
Yeah.
street
Oh.
that was poorly lit. But
Oh my gosh.
I fortunately I was already ready to move to a different car. So,
Yeah.
as soon as it's flooding, I get what stuff I can't live without.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was more annoyed about, okay, now I got to be more frugal. But
Yes. Yes. Yes.
it,
Yes.
you have to just
gotta
one
adjust. You
step. Yeah,
gotta roll with it. Yeah.
one foot in front of the other.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
so I had a bunch of people on here,
Yeah, cool.
but I
Let's
will
hear it.
leave it to you to
No,
see
let's go
if
back and forth for sure.
if
Yeah.
they are worthy. Some of the
Okay.
top stunt performers, martial artists.
Yes, yes.
I'm gonna do some deep cuts. I'm gonna do some lowbrow cuts.
Go
It's
for
up
it.
to you to decide, if they belong on a list.
Okay, let's
And
do
I'll
it.
let you add a few. Yeah.
All right,
Uh,
try it. Love it.
I
Yeah.
had number one. It's in no order, but I couldn't not put Bruce Lee at the very top. Just
That is my number one.
as the king
Hands
of
down.
spirituality,
Hands
and
down. I agree. I
he's
agree.
still an actor in that he also talks
Yeah.
about where he is in every scene, and the fact
Yes.
that he was able to get rid of his racist directors
Yes.
and
Yes. Yes. Yes.
incompetent crew if they were just not listening to him. It's like, okay, I'm
Yeah.
gonna do five of your jobs for you,
Yes.
you know, because you just don't understand the premise of this movie, clearly.
He's my number one. I'm glad you said that. He's my number one, hands down. He was a huge inspiration on me. My dad had me watch Enter the Dragon at a very young age,
Oh,
and
lovely.
it was just like, holy shit, like, who is this? He's incredible, because he just exudes his spirit, his soul. It's everything, and everything that he does, every punch, every kick, every gesture, like he's fully. And to think that he wasn't a quote unquote professional actor, like he wasn't an actor who then studied martial arts, and he was a martial arts first, who then became one of
And
the
then crafted his own style. I mean, can you think of anyone
crafted his own
else who does
style.
that?
Exactly, and he understood filmmaking. He understood, the difference
Mhm.
of like the wide angle, and that's why I respected him so much, because it wasn't the editor who made him the
Right?
bad. He was already the badass,
This
and
is
for him,
like a singer
yeah,
telling everyone
right,
beforehand, here's how we're going to film this so that this doesn't mess up the lip
yeah,
sync and all
yeah,
this. He's
yeah.
kind of thinking that too. It's like, okay, we got
Sure.
to do this and that. 'Cause
For sure. No, for sure. He definitely was, I think, to me, one of the best, if not the best, martial arts on screen ever, because of what he truly did. And I could just say, between those two movies of Enter the Dragon, Return to the Dragon, like those were like two of my most influential movies, as both a martial artist and then even as a filmmaker, just remembering, Bruce Lee. And I had the pleasure of meeting his daughter Shannon Lee here in
yes,
California. She held a workshop.
she should have
uh,
done more movies. Yeah.
yeah, man. Yeah, she really should have. I was just, and it was just like an honor to like just to meet her and to like be in the same space of her and take a photo with her. To think that, like, oh my God, this is his daughter. Like, that was her dad. Like, that's just like,
Yes.
and a huge, huge, huge influence on me. And then of course, Brandon Lee.
I
Tragically.
had both his kids on
Yeah,
here. They both
yeah.
they
Brandon's
both
amazing.
should have done more. And
Yes,
you
yes.
know,
The Crow is, to me, is another one. It's another all-time favorite. The Crow. I think they should have just left it alone.
please, please,
No,
like
make
Highlander, they
for the
just
remake, for the remake, for the
yeah,
remake. Just leave
yeah.
it alone. You got a masterpiece there. Leave it alone.
It's just amazing. It's just
Yeah.
people cannot help themselves. And it's like, if you recreate this,
Yes. Yes.
do you understand why this is a thing? Or are you just looking
Yes.
at the trailer?
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. For sure.
uh,
What else you got? What else you got?
I have the Shokotan and Brazilian Jiu Jitsu practitioner, Wesley Snipes.
Oh yes, love Wesley Snipes. Blade
Yeah.
is another incredible movie. I love it.
Yep.
I was at a tournament one year in New York City. I forgot exactly where. I think it was in Harlem or something. And he was in the audience, watching, and I was just like,
Lovely.
"It's Wesley Snipes."
I would see him in a few comedies, especially if they
Yeah.
involved boxing
Oh,
and he
he's
would cameo
great.
as
Yeah,
himself. But it was
yeah,
always
no,
funny because he would actually be at some of those sports events.
yeah, he was there, man. He was there, and he was such a versatile actor. I love he's an incredible actor. I love.
So comedic, so charming, and then you're just like, but wait, that was Wesley Snipes. It's like, and,
Yeah.
and it is wild though. It's like, yeah, the superhero fans are gonna go crazy over this trilogy, and then
Yes,
the
yes.
'90s movie fans is like, yeah, I can't think of the '90s without Wesley Snipes. Wong Fu and
Yeah.
Passenger 57. It's just like
Yes, that's true. He had a hot streak for all those years, for
white
all
men
those
can't jump.
Right, Jump. He did a lot of stuff with Spike Lee. He did
Yes.
He did Jungle Fever. He did so many amazing films, and it was just like he's such a versatile actor. I really hope that he continues and comes back and gets back on there because he's definitely one of the best actors.
I think after hanging out with his buddy Eddie Murphy and doing a few
Yeah,
movies with him, I think he's still ready. He's just kind of doing it
yeah,
in small doses.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree. I
But
agree.
yeah, I like you. I wish it'd be a little more frequent, but I don't
Yeah,
know. Who knows?
yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
he's still got a surprise for us. I don't know.
Hope so. Hope so. He's a great actor.
I got Scott Adkins and Michael J. White. I got
Yes, yes, yeah. Michael J.
uh,
White. It's amazing. He's definitely. I think he's kind of replaced almost Wesley Snipes in that
he
sense of
really
like
has.
martial art black guy.
He's so
Like
charming. He's
yeah,
trained his wife, and she's trained
yeah,
him how to not only be a better husband. And
yeah,
I think I heard an interview where they were on Vivica Fox's podcast, and
yeah.
they are so in sync. Like they are like the perfect couple. Like they are
That's great.
uh, like they would give each other tips on how to be healthier, how to get a better night's sleep, how to run lines with each other. And
That's cool.
Michael's just saying is like the easiest trick in the book. Listen, but I
Yeah.
didn't do that 20 years ago. Now I always listen, and I'm like, wow, see, that's so big of you. I see so many people doing the whole, I was ready from day one. I was
Yeah.
like, okay, sure.
Yes. Yes. Oh, that's it. That's it. That's everything. Yoga, martial arts as an instructor, pay attention to your students, be present, be receptive to them, listen to them,
Receptive,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
great vibe. I
Yeah.
had Van Damme.
Van Damme, yes, yes, yes. Van Damme, no retreat, no surrender. When he first showed up wearing the white suit, he just kicks this guy's butt. I would it
The
was
fact that now he can make fun of himself, but now
yeah.
he's doing even more serious stuff. Is like, he wouldn't have done that 30 years ago, but
No, for sure, for sure.
that's
No,
why he's doing this. He's doing all these
yeah.
roles that he wanted to do.
Before. Yeah, no, I know. He also had that hot streak, and then probably the 90s as well. And I remember, seeing him in that movie, No Retreat, No Surrender, and just being blown away because it was like, I always love when martial arts is introduced in a new way, in a fresh way,
Yes.
shows up and he's wearing a white suit, which you never see anyone. Usually they're in their gi or they're whatever they're the judo, whatever,
You're seeing
but
his competitive side come out.
yeah, yeah, it was so cool. It was one of and then of course with Bloodsport, Bloodsport just exploded him to the next level, and then he
That was
became
his Rocky. That was
yeah, that
his.
was his Rocky. That's right.
But yeah, it's like I'm an undercover cop,
Yeah,
and I'm a martial artist,
yeah,
and under, and I have to win every tournament because it's
yeah,
actual life or death.
yeah. That's great. It was so great to see Bolo in there. Bolo,
Bolo Young,
yeah, from Into the Dragon.
I have him on here at number
Yeah,
22.
22. Yeah, Bolo
He is
Bolo's
always he has made that his career, just like playing
yeah,
up. I'm
he's
going
the
to
bad
be
guy.
your opponent, and I'm
Yeah,
going to
yeah,
have a charming kind of grin, saying, "I
yeah.
see what you did there."
I love Bolo. He's wonderful.
Yes, I have
Yeah.
Olivier Gruner.
Nice.
He
Nice.
was
Yes.
the HBO kind of movie guy for a while.
I
Uh,
love HBO, man. I remember the original HBO opening, with the little model city, it was really cool.
yes, the
It
world
was so
premiere.
cool.
Bum, 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 bum.
That was the best.
Lovely. I have Ao Leong,
Yes, yes.
80s
Amazing.
bad guy mastermind.
Great
I'm
look.
still glad that
Yes.
he can do some coordination once in a while. He had some fun TV gigs as well.
Yeah.
People will often go, yeah, Joel Silver City, because Big Trouble, Die Hard, Lethal
Ah,
Weapon,
that
but
was great.
then he's gone on to do other stuff like Scorpion King and
Yeah.
24.
Yeah.
And
Yes. Yes.
I'm just glad that heart attack was not fatal and he's still
Yeah. So
showing up, doing interviews, conventions.
yeah. But
Uh,
Big Little China was another amazing film.
yeah,
It really it was my as again from growing up in New York as a young, I think at the time probably a young teenager, and then seeing, now a comedic martial art movie, where you had and yet it had like this supernatural element to it, which I think was just incredible. It really merged different genres, and it was one of the films that really blew me away because at that time I had been watching a lot of martial art films and they were all kind of starting to become the same. But with Big Trouble in Little China, That was one that really made me go, "Wow, this is a cool movie," because you had Kurt Russell in there, and you had Kim Cattrall, from Sex and the City.
Yes.
Who would have known? It was so cool.
Who would have known? I had Michelle Yeoh.
The best, the
I was
best.
always a fan. I'm glad people are rediscovering her, but I was just like, yeah, you're a
Yeah,
Bond girl.
I know.
You're a
It's
Hong
good.
Kong, tough gal cop in so many
Yes.
works. And it's so funny. My sister was on the right boat. It didn't take Star Trek or Everywhere all at once. She's like, oh, yeah, Cam used to watch Super Cop all the time. I'm like, yes.
And you can't forget Crouching Tiger, Hidden
Crouching
Dragon.
Tiger. I mean,
Incredible at that. She's just amazing. She's one of my favorites as well. I love her for sure.
so dramatic, so rewarding. I mean, that was definitely one of the first actor showcases we did.
Nice,
We
nice.
got Jackie Chan. I mean,
Yes,
do I need to say it? I mean,
yes.
he is
Amazing.
fearless. He can sing. He can.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, Jackie Chan was like one of the ones that blew me away also because he was, of course, doing his own stunts, but like just constantly pushing the envelope, pushing it, pushing it,
Always.
pushing it, getting, and then I think that became part of the whole marketing. Like, oh, he broke his leg, he broke his nose, he broke his ribs, he broke his leg.
Yeah, what will he do?
Like,
Yeah.
and everybody,
One
we
minute
want to
he's
see that.
Buster Keaton, the next minute
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
martial
yeah,
arts mastermind. And
yeah,
the fact
yeah.
that almost every person I could think of was part of his stunt team at one point or
Yes,
another.
at one point, exactly,
Director
exactly.
Andy Chin, all kinds of great
Yeah,
talents.
yeah. Not,
Simon and Philip Ree.
nice. Yes, yes, yes.
Best of the best fans will know about that. But like they have, again, Simon, I will just always see pop up, and I'm like, well, I know that man.
Yeah, 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 yeah. The best of the best was another favorite of mine. Yeah, yeah.
Phillips finally come back to do some movies, and after you'll love this, he had a prolific career doing some visual effects animating.
Oh, really? Oh, cool.
Yeah,
That's very cool. That's very
that was he still embraced it. We got Keanu Reeves, but
yes,
like
yes.
I'm, and again, I think he's interesting. Is like most people would just only know like just Matrix or Bill and Ted, and
Yeah.
my parents introduced me to like some of his better known stuff like Parenthood that no one talks about nowadays. I'm like,
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
So
Wow.
he's an unusual, just kind of
Yeah, yeah,
spiritual actor. It's just
yeah. No, he's amazing. I loved him in Devil's Advocate. It was
yeah.
one of my
I was just about to yeah. See,
movie that really like whoa. It was a
I
cool
keep
movie.
I keep trying to recommend people Mana Tai Chi as well as
Yeah,
Street
yeah,
Kings and
yes,
I Love You to Death where he plays an inept hitman
yeah,
in this
yeah.
dark comedy. He's just got
He's great.
very unusual roles. It's just
Yeah, he's really
people like to
cool.
focus on the stuff he was miscast in, and it's like, well, yeah, every
Sure.
actor has a role that they're not proud
Yeah,
of.
of course, hands down. Yeah, for sure. But I loved him in Point Break. Point
Point
Break.
Break,
Point
Speed.
Break. Point Break made me want to go skydiving.
Oh,
The guy
that's where he met.
skydiving because of Point Break. I was like, I want to go skydiving. I love
That's
that
where he
movie.
met his coordinator
Yeah.
Stahelski.
Ah, cool. Very
And
cool.
he didn't do what so many of these stars would do, like where they're like, "I did everything." It's like, no, like he was
Yeah.
actually scared to death while doing the bus jump on Speed, and he said,
Wow. Wow.
like where he's jumping out of the car onto there,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
instead of being frank or, you know, giving a altered version, he said straight up, is like, "I did a jump once, but that
Yeah.
is not what ended up on film." I'm like,
Oh,
see, that's modest of you. Anyone else would have been like, "Oh yeah, I did everything." I'm like,
yeah,
no,
yeah, for sure,
you
for
can't do
sure.
everything.
But he's great. He's great. I love him.
I have Gary Daniels. I know people. He was kind of an internet punching bag with the Fist of the North Star movie, but he's after a while decided to calm down and actually
Yeah.
be a reliable B movie guy. And he's one of the henchmen in The Expendables as well. So
Oh,
that's kind
cool.
of a mild comeback.
We'll return after these messages.
If you like small town mystery, crazy news, and wild history, then the Florida Men on Florida Man podcast is for you. Each week, Josh Mills and Wayne McCarty bring you the absolute best Florida has to offer. So if you're looking for a show that's safe for the family, but funny enough to help you escape everyday life, then listen to the Florida Men on Florida Man podcast. That's Florida Men, plural, on Florida Man podcast.
Hey, it's Brent Pope, the host of Breakfast with Brent Pope. You've seen me on some of your favorite TV shows saying things like, "Give it up, Jimmy. You got to sink this putt to win." On Breakfast with Brent Pope, I sit down with guests from the entertainment world, and we do it all over breakfast. Or should I say Brentfast? Every week on Brentfast, you get inside Hollywood info and tips, great breakfast recs and foodie debates. Most of all, you get the most delightful 30 minutes of your week. So dig in. It's Brentfast time. Listen at Brentfast.com, Apple Podcasts, or wherever fine podcasts are found.
I have Frank Grillo,
Grillo, yeah,
Captain America and the Purge, but he's gone on to do his own set of just kind of heist movies. And
yeah. He has a really cool documentary series about martial arts. I forgot what it's called, but if you look it up, it's really good. And he takes you through different countries and introduces, like, of course, Thailand in terms of Muay Thai, and then
that's great.
With jiu-jitsu, so he goes to different countries and then like finds like the best of that time.
That's right. Yeah.
And then
like
studies with them.
6-episode thing.
Yeah, it was really cool. And then studies with that person, and documents them, and leading up to their next fight, if they are still competing, or whoever they're coaching. So it was really cool because he was introducing different styles of martial arts in different countries, and then showing the impact of it in that country. He even studied. I think did one episode. They went to Israel, and then studied Krav Maga. I think he studied with the top Krav Maga guys over there, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, really, really cool stuff. It was. I really enjoyed that series. It was cool.
Yeah, I wish they'd do more stuff like that. Just actually, don't get me wrong. It's interesting exploring pizzerias and wine tasting around the world, but it also would be cool to just see what are different forms of entertainment and sports competing around the world.
Sure. Yeah, definitely.
I did have Michael Dudikoff. I know that's lowbrow. But
it's all good.
The irony is he kind of studied it after the fact versus when he was the Canon Films.
Yeah. Which I think was the same with Ralph Macchio, if I'm mistaken. I think Ralph Macchio studied.
Right. They didn't take it serious at the time, but then they went back and did it later.
Crazy.
While as Eric Roberts was like, I just acted. I didn't do the homework after 2 weeks. There's Donnie Yen. There's another man who has tried all kinds of adapting to different scenarios, different kinds of characters. I mean, I applaud him for even doing even more villain roles half the time.
Yeah. Everyone loves a good villain, It's like people from my experience, actors love playing bad guys, because it's usually not who they are in life.
Show how they were abused, and then they got brainwashed on this form of they become a killing machine.
That's great.
Arnold Shawn and James Yu are some other names that might pop up for you. And again, they've done so many different blockbusters and movies and TV shows. Don the Dragon Wilson.
The Dragon, that's right.
Yeah, another guy who he embraced that. Like the president of Blockbuster wanted his autograph because he would keep seeing him in all these Roger Corman films.
Awesome.
When's the next Blood Fist coming out?
That's cool. That's cool. It just goes to show, you can make a living. You can really be
living.
People look down on B movies for a while. Like it was like, oh, it's a B movie, and like
it's like they were distracted by, the budget's bigger. I'm like, it's the same. B movie doesn't mean bad. It just means it's a genre movie. And
and it didn't have the theaters. Factor. No, for sure. I definitely, now as an independent filmmaker, I definitely have an appreciation for it, because it was like, look, not everyone's going to get to the Hollywood, multi-million trillion blockbuster, but you can do a movie, you can do a low budget independent film, which these guys were doing, and getting at least one celebrity of whatever. In this case, Don the Dragon was a kickboxer, getting somebody who has some credibility of following and put them in the movie. And then I think it was such a brilliant, as opposed to looking at the B movies as like these second class movies, or they just weren't good. I think that it was a true independent spirit, approach.
Some of your favorite TV and movie directors have, that's where they started out. It's like, okay, I'm going to do the TV and movies.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's also interesting just seeing how when you embrace different genres and whether you even want to do just straight up action versus this is a martial arts movie.
Yes, yes, yes. No, definitely. I love action as well. Martial arts tends to be to my go-to, but even when you think about it, in most action movies, if there's a fight scene, it always winds up being a martial arts scene.
Mhm.
They're not doing the old school boxing stand-up, the way they used to, and it's always going to be some type of a form of martial art, hand-to-hand combat, Krav Maga. It's always going to be, it's interesting that martial art has become the fight style of cinema. That's just the way it is, no matter what, would it be a military movie or,
How can I sneak that in
yeah.
there
Mhm.
versus it was an
Yeah.
afterthought and it backfired because it didn't feel like it was part
Yeah.
of the world you created.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, it's become it.
so I have Ray Park on here, and I know people are gonna go
Nice.
crazy. Mortal Kombat, Sleepy Hollow, Star Wars,
Nice.
but I applaud him for trying to go on and do all kinds of other stuff. I saw him on a Nikita episode, and I would actually
Oh, wow.
I would make people geek out, and they're like,
Yeah. Yeah.
still working.
Yeah.
He's kind of another one where I think he was kind of like a hothead, and then he kind of slowly de-stressed and said, "I'm going to do all kinds of different stuff instead of
Yeah.
just doing only conventions."
Yeah. Yeah.
I got Fred Williamson,
Oh, it's great. I love Fred Williamson.
from blaxploitation to now I'm
Uh,
gonna parody myself but still be a badass. He's just kind of
yeah,
he was
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
Sam Jackson before it was a thing. He just
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Was he the one, if I'm mistaken, in Dust Till Dawn? Was it?
yes, yep.
Yeah, he was great.
And that's like the one many people know him from. Like, see, that was just it. It was like Tarantino's bringing some of
That's a
these
cool
veteran
thing. It's a
guys.
cool thing, yeah, when they bring in these old school guys. It's now a film that's going to reach a bigger audience, a younger audience, the next generation, and people get to see, Fred and, any of these even Quentin especially would bring back a lot of old school guys, from John Travolta probably being the most best example of Pulp Fiction. But it was just amazing to see, Fred in there. I loved him.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I have Dolph Lundgren. There's another guy. Like, he didn't
Yeah,
start off as a martial artist,
yeah, yeah,
but
yeah,
then he took it up, and then he would insert it in the different military,
yeah,
apocalyptic, even
yeah, yeah,
alien
yeah.
horror and sci-fi movies.
Sure, sure. No, Dolph has a great career. He's definitely, the Rocky movie put him on the map, but after that, he
It is
ran with.
interesting. It's like he kind of was, I guess, hampered by bad distribution and misadvertising of his movies, but he's
Uh,
slowly come around, and
yeah,
he he can do just very badass like one-liners too
yeah,
after a
yeah, yeah,
while.
yeah, for
Uh,
sure.
he had to just slowly work on that on himself, and everybody I've seen who's talked with him just said he was just the most polite guy. As
That's
like
cool.
you don't, and I get it. A lot of them
Yeah,
started out as athletes and had to slowly mature as
yeah,
people. But it's just so awesome how he just wanted to just actually feel like he was in the scene instead of just, you know,
yeah,
handsome, playgirl model who's
yeah,
happens to be
yeah.
the star. He actually wanted to.
To be it, to become it, yeah, for sure. And I respect. I respect when somebody comes from a different, you know, industry, whether it be an athlete or whatever, and then goes into film and then really does the work and tries to really become a legit actor. I just saw The Last Showgirl with Pam Anderson,
Oh,
and it was
sweet.
it was not what I expected. I went in completely open. I didn't even see the trailer, but I was blown
That was
away.
wise. Yeah, because
Yeah.
trailers.
I was
Yeah.
blown away. She's a legit actress. Like, she's really, really good in this role. But that's not what you think, right away. Baywatch and Barbara Walters,
Sitcoms. Yeah.
yeah, things like that. But you see, like, her, like, she has acting chops. It's amazing. I love when people go deep into the craft rather than what they are being.
Retribution instead of
Yeah, yeah,
just keep on,
yeah.
or just write a book where it's like now it's a pity party.
Right, 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 right,
It's
right.
like, well, like,
Yeah,
uh, in fact, that's also what makes a great autobiography. When at the end of it, you like, I read a few different ones, and it's like, and it's like there was some where it was just kind of just random
yeah.
tabloids, but the ones I remembered were the ones just like, here's what I took away from that failure in life and why I got better.
Listen, for sure. 'Cause we could all relate to that. We could all relate to like, okay, we may not be going through it on that level as some of these celebrities, but on our personal level, we're going through our stuff, you know. So to take a
Hmm.
lesson from someone we look up to get their mindset and how they overcame this challenge or they got through this hard time in their life, you know, that's something that relates, something that's practical
I
for
mean, that's
us.
a good movie to begin with. I want
Yeah,
the person at the start to not be the same person they were at the beginning. You know,
that's right. Yeah, exactly.
uh,
Yeah.
there's a great book I'm sure you know about, Save the Cat.
Yeah.
It's like they had a good article. Is like if the heroes in Invincible, like Schwarzenegger or James Bond type, at least have everything around their environment change.
Yes,
Like
yes,
they
yes,
lose the love interest or they fail
yes.
the mission but save their
Yeah.
friends. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's a half victory, so it's a little more
Right. Right. We're real.
sustainable.
Sure.
I have David Carradine on here. It's
Yeah.
interesting how he didn't always embrace martial arts, but he embraced the spiritual, you know.
Yeah. Aspect of it. Yeah.
And then he became Mr. B movie. Then he came back, and then he would do parodies of his kung fu persona.
Yeah. No, that was cool. And Kill Bill's this is an incredible film. It
Oh
definitely
yeah,
brought it to
it's
the next.
like that's the role he wanted for years. I
Yeah.
I did put down Adrian Paul,
Yeah.
Duncan MacLeod from Highlander himself. He actually teaches a sword fighting class
Oh, cool. Good.
nationwide now. I think
Definitely.
internationally now. So like
That's
you
great.
can you'll either sign up at the convention to either do autographs, but then he'll often just say, "Okay, and do you want to
That's
meet us
cool.
afterwards for the sword fighting?"
Oh, I love that. That's great. That's cool. That's great.
David Bell from District B13 ta-
Yeah.
did all the parkour movies. It's like,
Yeah.
man, remember when
Yeah.
parkour was big and it like exploded on the
Oh,
internet?
man. Oh, man. Oh, it's just trippy. Watching those guys doing these death-defying,
I did
crazy.
see some fear mongers kind of try to kill the craze. They're like, oh, they're gonna use that for theft. I'm like, well, maybe if you're not a good person, but you could say that about anything.
Oh, for sure. Anything.
It's like this is not what it's about. It's about just showing how you defy gravity and
Yes,
you can go anywhere.
really. It's amazing.
Uh, it, I, sh- sh- I, that's the closest you're gonna get us to being Superman.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. Without the wire work and without the, you know, the airbag beneath you.
Perfect. I
Yeah.
did put down Denzel Washington and Liam Neeson because I know
Yeah.
they went into it later, but it was Dan Inosanto was taking classes with Denzel.
Yeah. Yeah. Denzel's amazing. I love Denzel. The Equalizer films are great. And, you know, one of my favorite films with him is Man on Fire. I love that
Yes.
movie. Incredible
And I
film.
mean, he got to play Macbeth. I think he said he now wants to play
Yeah.
King Lear next. I'm like,
Yeah.
who else can I rely to play all the
Yeah.
Shakespearean?
It's crazy because exactly he could play, you know, something as great as a Training Day, and then next thing you know he's doing Shakespeare. Like not many actors have that versatility to be like, you know, nowadays urban and then go into a completely different time and
He
be.
just has that unusual evolution. Like parents are going to say, "Oh yeah, the man who stole our hearts on Saint Elsewhere and
Yeah,
was amazing
yeah,
in Philadelphia." What you do
yeah.
about nothing? And then the kids are like, "Oh yeah, the guy from Remember the Titans and John Q." So it's like
It's crazy.
all these
And now
different versions.
Gladiator 2, he was amazing in Gladiator 2. He was one of my favorite parts of that movie. He was
He
incredible.
wanted to do an over the top villain role in a
Yeah, he
blockbuster movie.
nailed it. He nailed it.
I got Cynthia Khan,
Okay, yeah,
who kind of
yeah,
exploded on the Michelle Yeoh scene. It's
yeah,
like, okay, I'll do some of the fun cops and robbers movies with stunts.
yeah, yep,
Juan Bio,
yeah, yeah.
Maggie Q. She's kind of made
Right.
that her. She's the small screen version of that.
Yeah, she is. She is. Yeah, people love her.
Matt McCallum. He was kind of one of the, him as one of the agents in The Matrix Reloaded, and he's kind of for a while was kind of Mr. He was a Van Damme knockoff guy.
Hey,
uh, Jet Li can't not
Lee,
talk about
Lee,
Mr.
Jelly.
Spirituality himself, like the best of using wire fu.
Yeah. It's amazing because certain films, like really, and certain actors, and I remember one of my friends who was I knew her as an artist, you know, painting and amazing, you know, artwork and stuff, and she was talking about Jet Li and was just blown away by
Ooh.
him. So like just to see, you know, him transcend into, you know, whether it be women who have an appreciation for his art, or people who you who wouldn't expect, to be a fan of Jet Li. Like, oh, you really like Jet Li movies? That's cool. It was nice.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Uh, and I mean, he's actually ended his career kind of doing a lot of biopics that were unfortunately kind of
Yeah.
underseen.
Yeah. I wish
Played a
he-
mentally challenged man learning who couldn't swim, and I'm like, that's a very realistic, trying to
That's
avoid
cool.
drowning. I'm like,
Yeah, that's good for him. I would like to see him in more movies.
yeah.
Yeah.
The Warlords is kind of an underrated gem that he did with Andy Lau
Nice.
and Takshi King Sharu. And then I got some of the other cheesy B movie guys again, Joe Lara and Frank Zagarino. Like, they just had that look. It's like these guys are totally. You didn't put them in a Rambo or Die Hard type movie.
Yeah.
We got Cyril Rafali, who you'll know from Kiss of the Dragon and the District B13 movies again. He's one of the bad guys in the fourth Die Hard. John Fu, he's another one. His credits include Olympus Has Fallen and some Crackle original movies, Tony Jaa.
Amazing.
It's like Thailand's best,
Incredible. Seeing was it The Raid, right? The Raid, was that one? That was him?
No, that was what's his
No,
name?
Tony Jaa. Yeah.
I do have him on here, Iko Uwais, but
Yes. But remind me of the Tony Jaa movies, because he was another one that
he was in the Ong Bak films. And
Ong Bak. That's right. Yeah, he
Skin
just
Trade.
brought a different, like, and that's what I'm saying. Like, certain actors would just bring the martial arts to the next level in film, and he was one that just, like, it was like, what the heck is this man doing?
Yes. Unusual and just very spiritual. Russell Wong is kind of another favorite from Vanishing Sun. Romeo Must Die.
Yeah.
Daniel Bernhardt, again, he started off, in the Bloodsport knockoff sequels and then became a B-movie action star, and now he's made a comeback with appearing in every other blockbuster movie like Hobbs and Shaw and the John Wicks.
I think love the John Wick movies.
He coordinated Creed 2, yeah. And of course, got Cynthia Rothrock.
Yes, of course.
Got Matthias Hughes, got Sammo Hung.
Mhm.
Rick Yoon, he's been a go-to bad guy actor for a while. Olympus Has Fallen. Will Yun Lee, who many will know from the Wolverine, Elektra, Witchblade TV show. Kelly Hu.
Nice.
Lucy Liu, she doesn't use it as much anymore, but she did do a lot of stick fighting earlier in her career.
Oh my God, her and Kill Bill as well.
Yep, Kill Bill, Ballistic, Payback. Even though she does
her. Yeah, no, she's great. I love her, hands down. Love her. I just saw her in Presence. It's a new.
That's right. Soderbergh's new film she's in.
Yeah. So it was good to see.
I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it. Yeah, it was good. It was good to see her in back on screen. I haven't seen her in a while, so it's nice to see her.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so are you familiar with Roger Cross?
Roger Cross, remind me. Tell me
so very handsome Jamaican Canadian actor.
Nice.
He just did Wanted Man, directed and co-starring Dolph Lundgren. But if you've seen Arrow, Continuum, Dark Matter, or 24, you probably you've seen him. Like, he's had bit parts in other movies, but often he will implement a lot of some of his martial arts background in.
Cool, that's cool.
Like, if I show you a picture of him now, hold up.
Roger Cross.
Yes, in the chat. Boom. He's done even just minor roles and just kind of built himself up from there.
Yeah, definitely.
He's just so. He can be charming or he can be standoffish. I never know what persona he's gonna have in his movie.
Yeah, that's great.
Gosh, man, I'm gonna go for some of these other ones. Tamora Morrison, many will know from Once Were Warriors and Jango Fett and the Star Wars, now Boba Fett. I have Ron Marchini, he started off as like a 70s like defense fighter and opponent in tournament movies, and then he became kind of Mr. Direct to Video, like do it himself.
Yeah.
Joey Ansa, who
Mhm.
people might know from stuff like The Number Station, Born Ultimatum.
Nice.
I did put Jason Statham down as Mr.
Yeah,
Olympian.
love him. Love him.
Uh,
Even that.
he's kind of I call him the UK's uh, Charles Bronson.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. One of my favorite movies of his is of course Snatch. You know, all the stuff that he does with Guy Ritchie. I think he's
Yeah,
just brilliant.
Mr.
So
He
good.
often is going to have a gangster underlying kind of aspect, or
He's
be an
awesome.
inspector, and
Yeah, he's great.
perfect. Paul Logan, he's another B movie guy who's, he started off kind of doing just kind of lowbrow stuff, and now he's kind of embraced kind of being, I'm going to fight a monster, I'm going to fight zombies, but I'm going to use martial arts in
Yeah, I love
my
it.
fight channel movies. Roger Wan,
Mhm.
many will recognize him instantly now from like Skyfall and Shanghai Noon, but like, uh, I think I had his brother Ron Wan, yes, on here as well. Again, they've made a living just kind of slowly being part of Jackie Chan's stunt team and then implementing themselves into
Um,
doing various like
yeah,
sensei roles. It's
that's great.
I have Benny the Jet,
And yeah,
Urquez,
yeah, very
uh,
good. Yeah,
Kane Kusagi, son of Show. I guess we could
yeah,
we could put Show on here.
yeah. Oh my
Yeah,
God,
he's on here. All right.
grew up with all the ninja
All the
movies.
ninja movies.
He made me want to be a ninja. I remember being 13 years old and dressing up full ninja gear and having
Yes. This
made me want to be a ninja.
and they have implemented it. Like they didn't just do these kinds of movies; they owned it.
Yeah.
I did put Patrick Muldoon and Casper Van Dien on here because like outside of fighting bugs, Starship Troopers, they were all about just all these other fight to the death tournament movies.
Yeah.
Mark Dacascos,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's so funny. Like your grandparents will be like, "Oh yeah, isn't that the guy from Hawaii Five O and who was the chairman on Iron Chef?" I'm like, "Yeah, but hold on a second, just a minute. He was on the Crow TV show. He was." Uh, and now I'm just glad he's made just minor comebacks. Just
Yeah.
Stargate Atlantis, and John Wick 3. It's always busy.
Okay.
Jeff Speakman,
Yeah, great.
he's all about just like. Do you feel like he uses the self defense kind of style, kind of the best in here?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think he was big with that, and then also, of course, Steven Seagal was big, with the whole self-defense Aikido approach to things, as opposed to, initiating it, just more being of a defending and
Right,
deflecting.
be the bigger man instead
Yeah,
of.
I think he definitely was a big, well, probably also in the 90s or so.
Mhm.
He was like the guy, and there was all these movies with
The
him,
go-to. Yeah.
It's funny to see how these guys, they'll come in on the scene and then they'll have a whole bunch of movies for the short period and then you won't see them anymore. You know.
Yeah,
And he was definitely one of those guys. Yeah.
sure. Uh, I got Billy Blanks.
Billy Blanks.
Yes.
Love him.
Tybo.
Yeah, Tyro, man. He's
Still doing
a
it.
great example of just being versatile and kind of just rebranding himself. My first introduction to Billy Blanks was I was in New York City, Madison Square Garden, and he was on stage, and he actually fought who would later be my martial art instructor later on. His name is
What?
Jerry Fontanez. Yeah, so I got a chance to see my teacher,
Who was it again? It was
Jerry Fontanez. Jerry
Harry
Fontanez.
Fontanez. Oh.
Yeah, with my martial arts instructor, and he fought Billy Blanks on stage in Madison Square Garden. And then time passes, and then sure enough, I wound up coming across Fontanez's school, and then I got my black belt through him, became a secondary black belt. So that was like my first introduction to Billy Blanks, and then my second introduction was at the time when I was married, my wife at the time, she went to Taibo craze. She was obsessed with it. Would do Taibo all the time, and then my third and final one was I was at an event, like a fitness event, and I was representing yoga. I was teaching yoga on stage,
Ooh.
and he was there, and he did a whole segment on Taibo, and I got a chance to meet with him. So it was really cool to kind of see like, over the course of a span of, I don't know, 20 something years, like Madison Square Garden to then now meeting him and taking a picture with him in person, in California. It's just amazing the way life, the circles that we run in. But yeah, Billy Blanks was a wonderful.
He's just charming as hell, and I like how there's occasionally still new ads with him. I think there's like a Super Bowl ad he appeared in. It's like,
oh really? Oh, that's
it's
great.
like everyone knows him. Like they have seen his workout tapes if they didn't see his Roddy Piper buddy movies.
Yeah, exactly.
Just always busy, always doing something intriguing.
Yeah.
I have Jeff Wincott.
Nice.
Brother of Michael Wincott, but like he for a while there, like he still shows up in like legit stuff now. I would see him as a henchman on like mainstream TV shows and be like, yeah, that's the made for TV direct to video guy who's now kind of like Speakman and these other guys. I had Lauren Navid on, who again, he started off as like the Van Damme Stallone imitator and then decided, okay, I'm gonna do these international productions in the Philippines.
Hey, get paid. Good.
Get it.
You get it.
I have Elodie Young, Electra from Daredevil. She was doing some black belt stuff. Other people will recognize her from Hitman's Bodyguard and District B13 too.
Yeah. District 13 has a lot of cool guys in it.
Just so many guys. It's like that is a hell of an action oyster to start off.
Great.
She's killing it. No pun intended. Now on the cleaning lady.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have Margene Holden. You might recognize her from La Femme Nikita TV show and the combat stuff. And but every once in a while she'll appear in some other TV and movies. She was on the Beastmaster show for a while. And I was like, this is a cool chick.
Yeah.
Richard Norden. There's another one. He's now coordinating all kinds of blockbusters now.
Nice.
Malik Yoba, who you'll know from New York Undercover and Revolution. He does black belts. He even said tauntingly in a fight, like in a magazine article, he's like, Denzel and I, we're going to talk.
That's great. I actually, you mentioned New York Undercover. I actually met for New Year's Eve. I was hanging out with his scene partner, Lauren Velez. Yeah. She's really wonderful, and
yes,
I grew up, watching that show, and a lot of other stuff that
she is extremely busy. Like I was like,
busy,
never stops working. And
Spider-Man, she was a mom in Transformers, right? Yeah, she's great.
I geeked out there. I'm like, hey, the nurse from Oz,
That's right.
The detective from Dexter, is this? She's always finding ways to stay relevant.
Yep. No, she's great. She's great.
Charisma.
Yeah. For sure.
Then we got Andrew Divoff. You'll know him as the Wishmaster, but he's done he was originally studying to be a stuntman, and I think he still I don't know if he still studies, but that's why he was in some great fight scenes with Eddie Murphy and Harrison Ford and all different action movies.
Yeah, that's cool.
Joe Louis, there's a legend. There's a
deep cut. Yes. He was a big influence on my karate instructor. My karate instructor credits Joe Louis a lot for teaching him.
He's not as well known as he should be, and I'm like,
really, really great martial artist. Yeah.
And people think, oh yeah, the boxer. I'm like, no, that's awesome. That dude's awesome too. But like, I'm talking this guy.
The other guy.
He finally got to do a few movies like before passing. Unfortunately, he lived a while. Athena Massey, she's another gal who will share stuff from her Roger Corman, Don the Dragon Wilson days. Steve James, gone from us way too soon. He was in some other stuff outside of canon films. When he was like the special forces guy, I'm like, yeah, I believe him.
Cannon was killing it. I love Cannon. Cannon put out some good stuff.
Cannon was just so much fun. Jason Yee, he was kind of an independent guy who did stuff like Girl with the Dragon, Go from the Naked Eye, and he kind of was doing some Bruce Lee inspired like low budget films for a while.
That's cool.
Brian Mann,
yeah,
his star has really taken off. For a while, I was seeing him in some stuff with like Behringer and Seagal, and then he decided, no, I'm going to be on every other big movie and show now. Wu Assassins, The Expanse.
That's great.
Gary Hudson, there's another guy, B movie guy. Marco Zarrar,
Mm,
that might ring a bell. I'm not sure.
that one I'm not sure.
Yeah, you would know him from stuff like Machete Kills, Undisputed Free,
Oh, okay, of course.
Redeemer, Mirage Man. He's a Chilean martial artist. Chuck Jeffries, many will recognize him from like Blood Moon with Gary Hudson, as well as mainstream stuff like Gladiator. But he's another martial artist and stunt performer, and he also designed the fights in the Blade movies and Sam Raimi's Spider-Man.
That's cool.
While also, like many coordinators, implementing himself into being in part of the scenes.
Yeah, of course.
I got Ernie Reyes Jr., my dude.
Yes. I met him briefly, I believe, at one of the tournaments, and I would see him competing. They had a really wonderful.
So young, and you're like, but he committed.
Yeah. Incredible, man! Such a young age, and so cool. Yeah.
I don't know if he started a school, but that might explain why I haven't seen him in as many movies. But I'm like, he needs to be in more.
Yeah, I really should.
Thomas Ian Griffith.
Yeah,
it's another guy who was like, I want to be the next Speakman or one man army guy. Robin Shu started out in Hong Kong, then made it big here. I had a few other guys. I had Lyndon Ashby, Johnny Cage himself.
Yeah.
I had Brian Janess, who again was doing a lot of this stuff for Millennium Films and with the Zagarino guys, and then would often be the bad guy in some of these movies. But he again, like many of these guys, he embraced it. It's like, okay, eventually I'm going to get some TV stuff, then I'm going to get some more mainstream stuff.
Hey.
And often he's not even playing someone who, is a martial artist, so to speak, but he just makes that work as part of his scene as to why he's muscular. Like he'll often be a construction worker who's off duty stopping terrorists. James Ryan, he's kind of best known for a lot of South African stuff. He started off doing a lot of Bruce Lee kind of homage movies.
A lot of them did, yeah.
And then worked his way up into all kinds of other war movies and cheesy sci-fi. I think he's still alive. You might know him as the sheriff from Dusk Till Dawn too. And Reb Brown, same deal. He was in some of these crazy, Commando and Rambo knockoff movies, but he embraced it. He's like, yeah, I'm a B movie guy. Ace Verdell and Victor Neri, those are some other guys who, if you look up some of their Filipino martial arts movies, you'll just be like, man, these guys got it. I totally understand why they've been working since the late 70s. Dave Bautista.
Great guy, yeah.
It come a long way.
Yeah, he sure is. He was in Last Showgirl.
That's right. He is in that.
Yeah, he's good. He's a great part.
For sure. Got Gerard Butler.
That's great.
He's been doing black belts. Kerry Tagawa. He is the go-to just bad guy. Whenever he plays a hero, I'm always blown away. It's like, oh, what's happening right now? Did not expect that at all. Jason Momoa, believe it or not, has been training in mixed martial arts.
That's cool.
I got Randy Couture.
Yep, Randy Couture, of course.
And we got Johnny Strong, who was doing a bunch of mainstream stuff like Fast and Furious, and then moved on to Sinners and Saints. He's now been doing a lot of one-man army movies. Hiroyuki Sanada.
Yeah.
Samurai.
Amazing.
Marvel. Ian Anthony Dell is another one. You might recognize him from stuff like Criminal Minds, Y50, and 24. He was also in the Mortal Kombat web series.
Okay.
God, he was also in the Taken movie. That Taken, not.
Cool.
Yeah. If you look it up, you'll be like, yeah, I have seen him in a lot of stuff. I didn't know him, but he's awesome. Jerry Trimble, there's another guy. You'll see him in mainstream stuff like Heat as one of the detectives, and then you see him in all these Roger Corman this
Nice.
Filipino movies. Cesar Montano, other international star who does a lot of hitman stuff, and Kung Lee.
Mm.
Uh, and Kung Lee is just interesting. It's like, yeah, I totally buy why you are, working with the likes of Russell Crowe, Dolph Lundgren, and Banderas, and
Great.
he's a kickboxer turned actor. He just has that look, and he's just fearless. And now, believe it or not, both Forrest Whitaker and Ving Rhames have taken up black belt stuff for a while.
I know Forrest studied, yeah, but I didn't know Ving Rhames was studying. That's cool.
Yeah, it's like, and it kind of makes you wish they would do it a little more.
Yeah, Ving, great. Ving more overall in general,
In general, yeah.
Yeah.
I had Ming No Wen. So many are gonna go, oh, ER, Agents of Shield, and it's like a Stargate. I'm like, yeah, anything she's in, like, she's gonna probably kick someone's butt. And it helps that she's often playing like a diplomat or
Right.
it's like so your parents can go, oh yeah, the voice of Mulan, oh yeah, Joy Luck Club, and it's like, yeah, but also like
Awesome.
she's often going to be a smart scientist. Or I mean, people crap on the Street Fighter movie, and I get it, but I find it fun that she's undercover as like a reporter, and then works in her freedom fighting skills in that bizarre premise. I had Tia Carrere, believe it or not, she studied.
Tia's great.
I have Gene LaBelle,
Yep, of course.
King of Judo, and you see him in other stuff like LA Confidential and Rapid Fire. He takes some serious falls or is in some big fights. And then I had Luke Goss. He, became popular because of the Del Toro comic book movies like Hellboy and Blade 2, but then has gone on to be kind of the independent action movie guy. Then we got James Gavsey. If that name rings a bell, it's because he's the host of the Who Would Win podcast. And he is, I'm cheating a little, he should do a movie, but he's mainly just done voice acting, but he has also trained all kinds of Secret Service guys. I'm like, SWAT people. I'm like, geez.
Yeah.
I want to have, in an alternate timeline, I would love to have that on my tombstone. I trained all your real life heroes. I did put Mel Gibson on there. I get it, because it's apparently he did study, but
It's cool.
It's tough to separate the person I know nowadays. But yeah.
Hey, he had his time too. He was had his run also for that action star. He's great.
For sure. I had Sophia Crawford and Daniel Southward. They've been in stuff like U.S. SEALs, Power Rangers, and then doubled like some of your favorite people. Like I got to talk so often with Sophia Crawford on some of the stunt groups on Facebook, talking about doubling Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Nice.
But yeah, Daniel Southworth is another one. It's like, man, he's been in stuff like Act of Valor and stuff. I'm like, I wish he was a bigger name because he just seems like a very suave, everyday kind of guy.
Yeah.
And then I got Sonny Chiba.
Yeah.
I have Michael Wong, who's no relation, but a very fun Hong Kong movie star. And since we were talking stunt performers, I also put Stephen Ho, who was part of the Jackie Chan's team in the Ninja Turtles. Savin Ol Thorson, who was Schwarzenegger's bodybuilding partner and basically dies in all of his movies. Then I have Jim Kelly, and then Nick Shathis, who's this French-Canadian performer who you've seen in everything. X-Men, Erased with Aaron Eckhart. He's one of the assassins in 16 Blocks with Bruce Willis, Land of the Dead. He's even in The Incredible Hulk, so Boondock Saints as well. He's kind of the go-to guy. Like, you don't know him, but like you will instantly recognize him like with his dead eye stare. Like I think he's one of the boxers in Cinderella Man.
Oh, really? Oh, cool. Love that movie.
He's just that go-to guy. And like when I see him, like I know that guy. I
Yeah.
don't know what from, but I've seen him. And sure enough, you see his. Fortunately enough, he's out of all the guys, he's really updated his IMDb a lot. Like I'm like,
Yeah.
now I can know where to look for you next time I rewatch that movie.
Yeah.
And I think we're done. Oh wait,
All right.
I did put Pat Roach, who you'll know from being heavies in all of the Raiders of the Lost Ark movies.
Nice. Nice.
But yeah,
Nice.
120.
Amazing, brother. You got
Any who you want to switch around?
yeah, I'll add a few in there that I have over here. I want to say, let me see. I got a list over here. One big influence for me as a martial artist, and I got a chance to meet him, was Bill Wallace, Bill Superfoot Wallace.
Ooh.
Yeah, he's an amazing kickboxer, but he's done a few movies, Force One, Kill Point, but was really, really amazing
Oh
inspiration.
yeah,
He was just a fast kicker, man, and I just loved kicks, and I really, really just watched him and studied
a lot of
him. And
those Crown International drive-in movies with Leo
yeah,
Fong.
really, really great guy. And Jim Kelly was and you glad you mentioned him. He was on your list. He was
Yes,
incredible. And him,
people just
yeah,
think dancer, but like he was also actually jumping in
yeah,
cannons.
yeah. But him and Enter the Dragon and just what he represented.
Oh yeah, Gene Kelly, but yeah, also Jim
Yeah,
Kelly. Yes,
Jim Kelly.
yes.
No, Jim Kelly, in terms of like just seeing, here African American, in a major film with the afro. He wasn't downplaying who he was.
No,
He was
not at all.
fully, and it was just such a beautiful, beautiful thing, and loved it. I got a chance to see Enter the Dragon on the big screen. It was like the 50-year anniversary.
Oh, lucky duck.
City. Oh, that was one of the best experiences to be in Times Square, watching Enter the Dragon. I'm thinking like, wow, like my dad experienced this, on the big screen in his day, to come full circle. It was one of my best memories.
It has to be. I mean, he's,
Yeah, incredible, incredible.
it,
I have a few more for you. Let me
sure.
see. Let me get my list here.
But yeah, Free the Hard Way. That's an underrated one.
Yeah. Chuck Norris.
All right, sure.
Norris. He was, my favorite film. With the scene with him fighting with Bruce Lee was just got to be.
I get it. Yeah,
Iconic. Even though he had all the Delta Force movies and all those movies, which is cool. And that's actually how I first was introduced to him, and then on to seeing
hey,
him with
Walker Texas Ranger was my grandmother's favorite show.
yeah.
People were scratching their
Samo.
heads. It's like, I get it. It's a cult
Yeah.
show.
Yeah, for sure. Sammo Hung was amazing. Sammo was great.
Yes. Martial arts. Yep.
Yeah, incredible.
I'm glad it finally got a DVD release after so much.
Yeah, man.
I
Yeah.
still got my bootleg DVDs. I don't want
Do
to.
you really? That's cool. And the one I got to add on to there is because I actually had the pleasure of studying with him for a while. He was friends with my instructor, with Jerry Fontanez, but he only did one movie that pretty much everyone, not everyone, but most people who are martial arts fans would know. But there's really no other films that he did after that were on that level. Was The Last Dragon, Timok, The Last Dragon.
Yes.
If you haven't seen that, it's incredible.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Probably the most successful indie martial arts movie of the 80s.
Yeah, in the 80s. Yeah. It was just another to see an African American. He's actually mixed. He's African American and Italian. But to see, him on screen, representing a different demographic, and then, with the show enough.
Believe it or not, you know who the original cast was for that?
Yeah.
Denzel Washington.
Oh, get out of here.
He tried out for it, so I'm thinking of an alternate reality. Time Hog does like an 18 type show, and Denzel does that.
That would have been a completely different movie.
A whole different movie.
Yeah, that's great, brother. Good, nice list you got there.
I tried to incorporate all kinds of guys.
Definitely, it's awesome. Great list for sure. But I'm glad we both agree. Bruce Lee. Yeah,
I don't know anyone who hates Bruce Lee. I mean, don't get me wrong. I sometimes would encounter a relative who didn't get some of those movies. I'm like, well, you're coming in midway through. You got to watch this from the start.
That's the story, guys. You're in the story. For sure.
And I don't know what it is. It's like certain 60s and 70s movies is like you got to tell people be patient. It's not going to go at rapid pace like
Yes,
today's
yes.
cinema. You know,
I know today's cinema is just it's just such, it's just formulaic, it's cookie
hmm
cutter, it's cliche, it's everything,
too quick to be done, and it's like I'm not even getting warmed up or
Exactly.
comfortable.
Yeah, sure. And it's good though. It's good to know like the original, the stuff, the origin where it came from, and then also appreciate what's happening now. And I think with my film, I try to incorporate the two worlds. I hook the audience with the opening scene, with seeing, a young girl walking into church crying. We don't know what's happened to her. We see her blouse has been ripped.
Yeah.
She's
Wait,
holding her shoes in her hand.
a lesser
You know,
movie would try and show all the awful act, and it's like, no, this
yeah,
isn't an exploitation
no.
movie. This is a
Yeah,
just
no, this is the aftermath, and let's be with her emotionally where she is and what's happening to her, and then go back and then tell you what happened, and I like that style of filmmaking where it's like, we hook the story, hook the audience with something that happened, but not, the cliche like, oh, there's a ticking bomb and the hero saves it, and that's just the opening scene to show you what an amazing, character they are, but then that's not really the story. Then we're gonna leave that storyline. I'm gonna go in a different storyline. It's so like, oh, okay, here I know that plot point, and I understand, what they're doing here as a writer, but to make it more authentic and believable, I think that's the way to go.
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. That's cool, man. That's good. Yeah. So what films? What are you working on? What have you doing shorts? Writing?
So I want to get back into doing some music videos for some local
Ah,
pop
that's
music
cool.
talents.
Yeah.
But I've been writing a heist spy film with some
Nice.
friends, and it's still fresh in our minds
Yeah.
after 6 years. And it was just one of those, we
Wow.
just worked on it every bit at a time.
Wow.
We got back into the group after all the interruptions in the world, with COVID and everything. And then it got to where it's like, okay, clearly our heart is in this because we were still talking about this. We might as well have already filmed it.
Yeah.
Now that we've thought about it harder, now we know
Yeah.
what to take out. That'd be too much.
Yeah.
This would be formulaic or
Yeah.
hokey, or just cliche. It's like we want to have a mixture of stealth as well as, for lack of a better word, let's just call it sneakers meets the A-Team. Just some kind of
Love
fun.
it. Yeah. Love you too.
These commandos, they've been forced by this crooked, military general to, steal from these federal this data and everything. It's just a very cool heist, and
Cool.
we, it. I'm sure you know this, but just like with any filming, is like just rent out property, uh, or ask friends who if you can
Yeah.
film here, and
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
get all the
Obviously,
paperwork signed.
yeah. Yeah, oh, for sure. For sure. Yeah. That's important.
Someone's a no-show, move
Yep.
on,
Yep.
recast. Don't
Exactly.
do any of this.
No.
Don't invite melodrama into your world. It's not worth it.
No, exactly. I know. And unfortunately, some people, they don't understand that we want the drama on camera, not behind
I
the
mean, I
scenes.
was on a terrible war movie that will never see the light of day, but
Oh no.
I learned, and I would hope I did, because I got bit by chiggers in a forest, and
Really? Oh,
people
God.
were wasting each other's time. Just there was no sense of order or schedule, and then I finally said, I'm throwing in the towel.
Yeah.
Just no one knows what they want, and it's been 2 years. I need to move on.
Yeah. Yeah. You gotta respect their time.
They
For
talk
sure.
smack behind my back saying, you ruined this. I'm like, well,
Yeah.
what's your idea? You're the director. What do you
Yeah.
got?
Yeah. Yeah. What was your position on it?
I was co-producing and everything,
Oh, cool.
but everybody else was refusing to pitch in, and I just said,
It's a collaboration. Everyone
yeah,
and everyone has to understand that. Look, independent filmmaking, low budget filmmaking. We've all got to pitch in. We've all got to,
yeah.
bring
I
something to
wish
the
there could have been some of that. There just wasn't any camaraderie. There wasn't.
We need that. That's the only way a film could be successful on an independent level, is that everyone pitches in. And that's why I'm very selective with my cast, with my crew, and even after 20 plus years, 25 years of doing this now, I'm still learning, in this last film I just shot, I'm still learning. It's constantly evolving, it's always, you're working with different people all the time, you're working with different, situations, environments, in my case, a different country, shooting in Mexico, so it's really it's a humbling experience. You know, we have to really be humble and always think of it the same way I think of yoga. You know, just be a
Bingo.
student, always learning. You know, never come from a place of like I know it all. Just from a place of like, no, let's work together and let's learn together. You know, that's my philosophy, and it's great.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Just something that just shows that your heart's in this.
yeah, for sure, for sure, for sure. Yeah, definitely. Cool, man. Yeah.
Well, and I applaud anybody who can, I mean, much like you, just blend your spirituality with your day job and then all your other
Yeah.
ventures and make this a very natural way to wear all these different hats,
Yeah. Yes. No, I'm so grateful having yoga and martial arts, you know, as my like my rock, my center, so that when all the world is going crazy, in everyday life or just on the film set, like just keep coming back to that, keep coming back to those philosophies and those principles. And like I said, non-attachment, not letting things get you worked up, which still happens, but not happening so fast and not so intensely, just really, really diffusing the situation. It's a mastery. It's a mastery of emotions. And that's something that I've learned through yoga and martial arts.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And the fact that you can just, this really does reinforce everything in your world. It's not something you're not looking forward to.
No, I love it. I love it. I look forward to every day. Definitely love to be on, just making movies. That's it, full time,
Hmm.
love it. Love every aspect of it, writing it, shooting it, editing, you know, everything, producing, yeah, everything. The whole casting process, table reads, sitting in the editing room, just the film I'm currently working in De La Cruz, just being there with my sound guy, meeting with my music guy, composing the movie, the score, communicating with my visual effects, artists, and just seeing like what's possible with the technology we have, what we were able to do now just versus 25 years when I started. It's
You can
just
be on Zoom giving notes versus I got to drive all the
yeah,
way to the studio.
yes, it's insane. Like I literally edited my movie on the laptop I'm talking to you on and two hard drives, Western Digital hard drives.
There you
I
go.
edited a 2 hour and 8 minute feature that's going to be distributed. It's like that. It's like it really blew me away. To see like what we can do. The phones you can shoot movies on. We shot on Komodos. We shot on two red Komodos, and shot it in 16 days. And it's just like
That's a deal, man.
yeah, yeah,
It
16
is
days.
interesting seeing people say that doesn't sound like enough time for this or that. It's like, well, maybe if you're not prepared,
Yes,
like
yes, yes. If you're not prepared, for sure, it's not enough
it's
time. And
just like
honestly,
you can
even
do
though
it.
we were prepared, 16 days was too little. Honestly, I feel we definitely needed more. But given that the actors were really, really, really prepared, that saved a lot of time. Because when we were
Yes.
we came to set, they just rocked. That we did rehearsals, we had in-depth discussions, table reads.
Hmm.
I did table reads 2 years prior to shooting the movie. The moment I finished writing it, we did our first table read. And it really was
There you
insightful.
go. You got to
To
say the words before.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something that you can do. Like you may not have the money to shoot the film, but you can read, just get a few friends, even not actors, just get a few friends around, and just read the script, and
Right?
something about hearing it out loud, versus reading it on your laptop for the millionth time,
Get
but
the tone.
hearing actors breathe life to it, and then most importantly, the discussion afterwards. The
Hmm.
talking, that's invaluable, and that's something that anybody can do. You don't have to have your budget in place. You can do
No.
table read. And that really saves a lot of wasted time on set too, because you know how to just get to it. You know what's needed for the scene, what's moving the story forward. You don't need to waste time, with all these long expositions, these long monologues. It's really productive. I love table reads.
And just, when you see, you get all this infectious energy when people are smiling on their face. It's just like theater in the park, it's just
Yes. No, for
yeah,
sure.
they're becoming their characters. There's nothing worse though when Well, plus it also just lets you know who's serious versus who's bored and losing track. Oh,
Sure.
what do I read? It's like, no, this isn't like high school, reading a
Yeah.
complicated book. You're either dialed in or you don't want to be here,
No, for sure. For sure. Definitely weeds out the committed, definitely. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's,
Oh, brother. Yes,
well, I'm glad you're letting the day not run you.
that's right. That's right. Oh, man. Thank you.
This
I'll
is a
keep
fun
you
chat.
posted as we progress. As we progress, we're doing our screening at the Chinese Theater on
Oh,
February
good.
15th. Yeah, we're excited about that one. That's a really beautiful, iconic, Hollywood Chinese theater. So we're going to screen it there on February 15th. We played in December at the Regal Theater in downtown LA.
Mm,
We already won now at this point 12 film festivals. And we're just rocking, man. We're excited.
good. Good.
Yeah.
Uh, if there's any other upcoming screenings, I'm down to see
I'll
it.
let you know. And if we submit to Texas, I'll keep you posted on the Dallas one because that's I don't think we missed that deadline yet. But if we submit there and we get in, I'll definitely reach out to you and have you come on as my guest.
Sure.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
I'll try to do as much advance notice as I can.
Thank you for sure. Cool. All right, brother. Well, thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
All right. See you on the other side. Peace.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening.
It's a jacked up